and welcome to CYBERUK TV. I'm Felicity Oswald, the NCSC's Chief Operating Officer, and I'm here today with Edward Parsons from ISC². Edward, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, great to be here.
Tell me to start, how have you found CYBERUK today?
Oh, I had a great time at CYBERUK. It's fantastic to be here in Belfast, to connect with so many different members of the security industry, and also take away some great learnings and insights from the speakers that we've heard over the last 2 days.
Thank you. One of the things we've heard lots about is the context in which we're working in at the moment, geopolitics, the economic climate. How do you think that economic uncertainty will affect the cybersecurity professionals we all work with?
I think it's certainly one of the factors that's impacting our profession, but I think it's also worth bearing in mind some other forces, such as the trend towards outsourcing security services, and of course the chronic skills shortage that we're all labouring under at the moment. Just a few weeks ago, we conducted a survey of business leaders from major economies, including the UK, to get their views on how the economic uncertainty might impact on our profession. And we found a couple of really interesting things. So first, they told us that cybersecurity professionals are actually far less likely to be impacted by economic uncertainty than other professions. But they did also mention that junior staff are far more likely to be impacted by potential layoffs. So those are some of the factors that we've seen. But with this trend towards outsourcing and more security services, that also has a potential impact on professionals. We anticipate that we may see layoffs impacting in-house security teams as well. However, there's plenty of room for optimism as well, given that we still have this big skills shortage, and that means that people who have valuable and indeed scarce skills are quite well safeguarded against recession and really have the opportunity to thrive in what is a growing economy. So business leaders told us, actually 3/4 of business leaders said that they were open to hiring cybersecurity staff who've been impacted by layoffs at other organisations. And of course, that trend towards outsourcing and also potentially consolidation is only going to create opportunities with many of the security providers who are here at the conference at the moment. So although there may be potential for the profession to be impacted by economic uncertainty, we're hopeful that most professionals will land on their feet, and indeed that we can focus on getting back to growing the profession and growing professionals.
Yeah. And you mentioned skills shortage.
Yeah.
What will it take us to build and grow that sustained, skilled, talented workforce of the future?
Okay, well, I think there's 4 things that we recommend we can do. So the first one is make the profession open to all. And that means opening it and making it more accessible to people regardless of their backgrounds, and really doing our best to increase representation from underrepresented populations within the industry. We also mean opening it up to all in terms of thinking more broadly about the prerequisite skills and experience that we're looking for when we're trying to get people into the profession and indeed grow the industry.
Yeah.
So that's the first point. The second point is a related one, which is about tailoring professional development to the needs of that new workforce. So I think traditionally within our industry, we've been used to a lot of people coming from traditional IT roles with bags of experience in IT and then transitioning into cybersecurity. But nowadays, the modern workforce is far more likely to have some kind of cybersecurity skills or qualification, rather. But conversely, less likely to have information technology skills. So we've really got to shift and adapt our training, almost turn it on its head, to really accommodate the new workforce. So that's the second point. So the third thing that we can do is meet the expectations of the modern workforce. Okay, so we know that there's a trend and a preference towards remote working, flexible working, and really those things have become expectations for a lot of young professionals. But it's also important to note that a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives is also increasing in expectation in the modern workforce as well. So there's really is a lot that companies can do there. And then the fourth thing that we can do is get everybody involved in paying it forward. So whether you're in a leadership role or you're a practitioner, whether you're in technical or non-technical roles, there are things you can do either by creating jobs, by coaching and mentoring others, or by just investing in giving people that skills and experience. And all of those things are going to help us grow the next generation of talent.
Yeah, no, I love that. The paying it forward idea is so important. And actually the spirit of Cyber UK, I think, is a lot about sharing that knowledge and expertise.
Yeah.
So I really like your framing of that one.
Thank you.
On diversity and inclusion then, we've heard so much about that in so many of our streams today, the idea of a mix of minds, having the right people around the table, both at the customer end and at the technology end. How do you think some of the growing diversity and inclusion initiatives will impact our workforce and change things over the coming years?
Sure, okay. So I think the first thing to say is that it will improve recruitment, retention and engagement. So companies, organisations that are committed to DE&I, they'll get all of those benefits and the productivity that goes with them. Okay. The second is, I really like the phrase that I think GCHQ and NCSE use a lot about that mix of minds. Because it really speaks to the cognitive diversity, which is strongly correlated with having a diverse perspectives and a diverse workforce. So ultimately, and I know this from my experience building and growing cybersecurity teams, that if you bring people together from different backgrounds, if you apply a multidisciplinary approach, you're far more likely to get an effective solution. So improving diversity improves cognitive diversity, and that improves outcome. But the third potential impact, which has been touched on by some of the panels indeed just this morning, is the potential to mitigate against biases which might be introduced within emerging technologies if they're not worked on or we don't have a diverse workforce involved in their development and their implementation. And I think that's one that we have to keep a really keen eye on, given the potential profound impact of some of these really exciting technologies on everybody's lives. So I think there are really strong, compelling reasons for us to commit to improving diversity, equity and inclusion, so we can all reap the benefits of this fantastic industry and the opportunities therein.
Well, Edward, thank you so much for joining us today. Really wise advice there and glimmers of hope about how we can improve the industry and continue to grow it as we all know it needs to do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my pleasure.